All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Wargames Podcast 47, I believe. Hopefully, I got that number right. If not, I'll have to change it in post, I guess, as they say. I lose track sometimes. All right. So, tonight on the podcast, we have myself, of course, and yet again, Mr. Patty, or the Tin Man, as you know him from Twitch. And also joining him tonight is currently my second favorite Australian, next to Diver, because Diver's making me a shotgun, and that is Hardman. Good evening,
Hello.
gentlemen. How are we doing tonight, boys?
Doing pretty well.
Fucking well.
I always, I just have to mention real quick, like, it always kind of makes me giggle a little bit when we have, especially if I have like 3, 4, 5 people on the podcast and everybody's from the unit. Because if I ask like a blanket question, everybody just kind of sits there in silence and waits for someone to speak up, because it is so fucking programmed into us to not speak when another person is speaking in TeamSpeak or whatever, you know. So it'll be like one person say something, then one person, then one person, then one person. It'll never be like everybody just talking over top of each other. It's hilarious because I only ever notice that with guys from our community. Other people have no fucking problem talking over top of someone, but guys from our community like refuse to fucking talk over top of someone. It's just fucking hardwired.
It's funny that you say that. Actually, 2-4 next squad training is getting ready to do a massive radio exercise where we literally will sit in front of the cop and just talk on the radio. No other conversation can occur until, like, we're just going to talk. And if somebody steps over each other, we start again.
That's actually really, really smart. That's a very good training. Who the fuck's idea was that?
That was myself and a Kulov.
It couldn't have been a Kulov. He's not that smart. I'm kidding.
Shit, I'll tell him you said so.
Kulov is okay. No, I like Kulov. He's good for a weapon squad. So the first thing I want to get into tonight is actually some stuff that we had left over from the last podcast with Shank. As most of you guys know, when myself and Shank get together, it hilarity tends to ensue because we're like two retarded brothers that don't deserve each other. So we tend to run off at the mouth for a little while and chase some rabbits. So there was a few things that I really wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to last week. And the first one of those was the new Predator movie that came out somewhat recently. Were you guys even aware that there was a new Predator movie coming out? Or is the Predator franchise something that you guys even give a fuck about?
It's not something that I really follow, but I was aware of the movie's presence. But it's not. I've never really got into it for whatever reason. And yeah, so I didn't really pique my interest. But I saw things.
I knew about it. I didn't figure that it was something that I wait to hear what other people had to say before I went to go see it, because I did enjoy the previous Predator movies, and I was like, this could either break it or destroy it. It's like the Terminator.
Yeah, well, Jesus. Well, then again, Linda Hamilton's coming back, so we'll see what happens. But, so Predator has always been huge for me, both Aliens and Predators. Most everybody knows I'm a huge Aliens fan. I mean, I'm just a big James Cameron fan. But not James Cameron, Jesus Christ. You said Terminator. The other guy. But anyways, Predator has also been a big one. To give you an idea of how big of a Predator fan I am, the other night, I went to go take a piss, and my brother's watching Predator 2. Now, between my office here and the bathroom, I cannot see the TV out in the living room. I walk from here towards the bathroom, and I hear this Jamaican guy talking on the TV. And I instantly knew it was the Jamaican dude giving the speech in the alley in Predator 2 about you cannot kill that which can't be killed. And like I heard 3 seconds of the dialogue, and I was like, "You're watching fucking Predator 2?" And my brother's like, "Dude, you can't even see the fucking TV. How did you know it was Predator?" Like, one, Predator is one of my favorite movies of all time. Predator 2 is even better because it's got fucking Gary Busey in it. 3, that speech is on Ice Cube's album Predator. Like, that whole speech is the intro to the album. Like, I know that speech very well. So, yeah, I'm a huge fan of Predator. the last one that came out, not the fucking AVP retarded shit, but the last Predator that came out with fucking Adrian Broken Nose and the fish, that movie pissed me off a lot just because of how retarded the gunplay and stuff in it was. And then this one comes out. Well, when I seen the trailer for this new one, I thought they were going to go more kind of the horror route, like make the Predator actually scary again. And they did not go that route. Like, they injected a bunch of fucking comedy in it. Fucking Key or Peel or one of those two idiots was in it, like, making jokes the entire time. And it's like, dude, this is fucking Predator. Like, it's supposed to be this terrifying intergalactic fucking hunter that just kills everything in its path. And you have a comedian in the fucking movie cracking his fucking one-liners every like 15 seconds. This is retarded. And then, of course, there's tons of like horrible gunplay in it, like guys that are supposed to be super badass secret squirrel types, and they like set up this skirmish line, and a dude starts running in front of everyone as they're firing and doesn't get his kneecaps clipped, and just a bunch of really stupid shit. So, long short, my review of the new Predator movie, don't fucking watch it unless you want to get pissed off. Because that's all it did was piss me off. I basically forced myself to watch it till the very end, and I regret losing that 2 hours or so of my life. I will never get that back. Now, to move on to what I consider one of the best movies I've ever seen, easily one of the best movies this year, if not the best movie I've seen this year, and that is A Star Is Born. Have you guys seen any of the trailers or anything on that shit?
I have seen the trailers. I'm kind of interested in seeing it because I have a secret fandom for Lady Gaga, just a little bit.
I personally didn't know fuck all about her. I didn't know any of her music or anything. I assumed she was fairly talented given her popularity, but I didn't know. Obviously, it's not really the type of music I generally get down on. And then I watched this fucking movie, and I got mad fucking respect for that girl. Like, whether she makes the type of music I generally listen to or not, I can still appreciate her vocal capability, and holy fucking balls, she blew me away in that movie. Like, absolutely amazing.
The thing is, too, is what's interesting is that before she sort of became the Lady Gaga personality, she was fairly well trained in the classics. Like, there's some videos out there of her playing, like a good couple of years ago, just in like, bars and clubs and that sort of thing, just playing the piano and just singing along. And there is some, it feels kind of bad to have to even talk about it these days, but there's some genuine talent underneath all of the production that is what her current music is.
Well, I knew she was a pop star, and, I see pop star, I think like fucking Britney Spears and shit like that. So I didn't really give a fuck. And then I watched this movie, and there's a point in it, and apparently this is how Bradley Cooper came to wanting her to be in the movie, where she performed A Tula Rose, or whatever it is, the French song that you hear playing in Saving Private Ryan. She sings that song in the movie, and apparently Bradley Cooper had seen her sing that at a benefit dinner or something like that, and that's what made him want to put her in the movie. But, I mean, it was absolutely amazing. And so the movie itself, Bradley Cooper wrote and directed it, and also stars in it alongside fucking Lady Gaga. And basically Bradley Cooper plays this huge rock star that's kind of burnout, if you will. And she's a struggling songwriter, and he ends up bringing her into his world and making a big name for her, so on and so forth. I'm not going to fucking go through the entire plot of the movie. But what amazed me even more than her performance, not only as an actor, which she was outstanding, given the chemistry between like her and Cooper, it was great. Like, you actually believe they were fucking in love with each other. But Bradley Cooper also sings in the movie, and he wrote some of his own music. And dude can fucking sing. Like, it surprised the shit out of me. Motherfucker, like, you're already a good actor and you're handsome as fuck. Like, leave some talent for other people. But he can sing. He can play guitar. Like, it was surprising. And then On top of that, the most amazing thing to me, which is probably the dumbest thing in the fucking movie to most people, but the thing that impressed me the most is Sam Elliott plays Bradley Cooper's brother in the movie. And as we all know, Sam Elliott has a very, very distinctive fucking voice. And Bradley Cooper, to make it more believable that they were brothers, somewhat mimicked Sam Elliott's voice. He didn't do a full-on like impression of him. He just mimicked it to the point that they, it's believable that they're brothers. They sound alike. And that was like the most impressive fucking thing of the entire movie, is Bradley Cooper throughout the entire movie sounding like Sam Elliott. It was trippy as fuck.
Whoa.
Well, I mean, honestly, from my perspective, it's good to hear that he put in a good performance in the movie as well, because I always get vaguely triggered whenever I see a movie directed by someone starring the same someone.
Oh yeah.
That always, I think that's just because I have a live theater background, and it sort of puts me on edge every fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
But to hear that it was a good performance as well is good. It's reassuring.
Oh yeah, it was outstanding. And like, I've always dug Bradley Cooper. The last movie he did that I really, really fucking enjoyed was that movie Burnt. Did you guys ever see that? Where he's a chef trying to get a Michelin star in London.
Uh-huh.
That was outstanding fucking movie. Like, having spent as much time as I have in kitchens, obviously not fucking Michelin rated kitchens, but I've spent a lot of time in kitchens with cooks and line cooks and shit like that, and like, I know that kind of pressure in a kitchen. And yeah, I love that movie. But anyways, in terms of A Star Is Born, that shit was absolutely amazing. The story of it, like I said, I'm not gonna rip through the entire thing or kind of give away the ending, but I will say I could relate to the struggle in the movie in terms of trying to deal with just everything at once. And I've known, as many of you know, I've been involved with bands and musicians. I've known a lot of struggling artists and shit, and that movie captured it incredibly fucking well, especially up towards the end. It was just absolutely amazing. So I cannot recommend that enough. Whether you're a fucking fan of pop music or country music or fucking whatever, like, if you're a fan of music at all, go watch that fucking movie. Hands down the best movie I've seen this year. Yeah, Cooper actually is a talented impressionist. I've seen him do impressions of multiple people, and he is pretty goddamn good with it. So I guess moving on from that, like I said, that was just something I wanted to touch on very quickly. One, tell you a shitty movie I watched and a good movie I watched, so go watch that fucking movie. The next thing I want to move on to is obviously Sunday, the mission that you guys are watching right now. I was running around with the saw. I had Hammer with me with the DMR. We had a fucking assload of fun. I mean, we killed tons of shit. It's always nice getting a run with Hammer. We were joking afterwards that like, it's nice getting a run with Hammer, because when the mission's over, I'm not all pissed off and stressed and fucking angry, because me and him are generally cracking jokes and having fun the entire fucking time, which generally we get yelled at when we do that in the presence of other people. But yeah, we had a lot of really good fun. We had, Troop with us as well, who obviously, I get along with Troop really well. So we had a lot of fun with it, and it was one of the better missions I've had this entire deployment, just because Hammer was there, and we were getting to run together and kind of just dick around. And like I said, killed a fuck ton of stuff. But as I kind of alluded to in the stream Sunday, provided everything goes correctly this weekend, this is going to wrap up the deployment for us. We got the last two objectives that we're hitting this weekend. Like I said, provided everything goes right, this is going to be the end for us, unless somebody ends up fucking something up, which hopefully does not happen. So we're kind of coming up to the end of the deployment. So I guess I want to ask you guys, I guess I'll go to Patty first here. Patty, coming to the end of the deployment, one, what's kind of been your overall, I guess, opinion on the deployment? Have you enjoyed it? Did you not like certain parts of it? So on and so forth. And are you looking forward to wrapping it up? Are you, excited to go into winter stand down and then head into a training cycle, or would you rather the deployment just keep going?
This is my third deployment that we've been on. My first being Crimson Moon, which was back a little whiles ago, but this, in my opinion, this deployment went well. I think it was fun. For me, though, I don't think anything stands up against Crimson Moon as of not yet. I still haven't found something that's like, holy crap, like I'm really into the story and like I'm really like, really concerned about like where the auxiliary operations occur and how they occur and how well they go. I feel like this particular operation, though, was lengthier than the last, which I think was Thunderstorm. It still hasn't stood up to my first one. I don't know. Maybe it's the first one that just always is the best, in your mind. But Crimson Moon to me just has a high bar because it was so very well thought out and written. And so yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm still reeling for an operation that kind of stands up to Crimson Moon. Am I excited for Stand Down? Yeah. I'd like to have a Sunday or two back to myself for a little while.
You want a break? How dare you?
It's nice. I really enjoy playing with the 506, and it's been a real pleasure in the almost year and a half that I've been here. But between the deployments, it's nice to like actually get to like, go to the FTXs. I enjoy FTX. But the stand down is what I look forward to because I get a break. I get to like completely turn off the 506. Well, I used to. Now I can't. I'm S shop now, so I can't really do that completely. But I get to shut it down for a little bit and like kind of recharge. And then when I come back, I'm really excited because it's been so long since I've gotten to play. And I think it's important to have that because then you burn. Oh, yeah. It prevents that burnout.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned S shop. Because, I mean, technically, even our S shop guys, like, they're not required to do anything. Nobody's required to do dick. You can take off for the entire winter stand down and nobody can, say a damn thing to you. But that's one of the things that's always stood out to, especially the guys in the S shops in the unit, is the vast majority of guys that are, in S1, S2, S3, S4, they don't stop. They never stop. They never take a break. Winter stand down is just another fucking day to them. They just keep doing their fucking job. And the thing that's, I guess, kind of funny is it didn't used to be that way. The unit legit did used to pretty much shut down. There was still, some S1 guys that would do stuff, but like all training shut down, all, mod work shut down, everything stopped. And I remember when I first took over started doing instruction. First I was a recruit instructor, and everything was going to shut down for winter stand down, and I was like, well, I want to keep my class open for winter stand down because there's still people putting in applications throughout the month of December. Like, I don't want to make these guys wait 2-3 weeks or a month to even start their training. And then I had talked to the S3 chief at the time and said, if possible, I would like to try and run an OSUT class during winter stand down as well, so that, again, that training pipeline is open. We're still bringing new people in. I'll run the class. And at the time, Avery was also an instructor. He was actually an instructor for my class. And I went to Avery and said, hey, will you run a class with me over winter stand down so we can still bring people in? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. So me and Avery ran that first class during winter stand down. It was the first time OSUT had been ran during winter stand down. And our class was massive. We had like 20 some people the first day. And by the end of it, I think we ended up graduating 16 people out of that class, which is pretty good given the usual amount of kind of drop off that we have in terms of OSUT. And there's, I think, maybe a couple guys still left out of that class, that first class that I ran. I think Yogi may have been in that class. But yeah, it used to everything shut down. Now all the S shops are just like, yeah, we're going to continue working, dude. We're not stopping.
Yep.
And speaking of continue working and not stopping ever, What about you, Hardman? Have what's been your thoughts on this deployment? I know obviously you've got a little bit more insight into a lot of what's going on with this deployment than what most people do, given the amount of fucking S-shop billets that you hold. What's been your thoughts on this deployment? Are you looking forward to wrapping it up and taking your non-break, because I know you're never going to stop? Are you looking forward to Winter Stand Down? Looking forward to the FTX cycle? What?
I am looking forward to Winter Stand Down, actually. I mean, I'm not going to be able to stop doing a lot of the things that I do, but it also just means that I have a little bit more flexibility in terms of hanging out with guys, because I also get 2 weeks off work, so my time zone difference matters a little less over Stand Down, and I can hang out and do some of the fun ops that people have got on, because there's a lot that I kind of have to miss out on just because I'm tied up doing other stuff when it is normally nighttime and not work time.
Yeah, doing your real world job, because believe it or not, the 506 is not actually Hardman's job. We don't pay him yet.
Yeah, I mean, if we can find a way to make that happen, that'd be great.
Right.
Yeah, in terms of Operation Lionheart, I think that there's, we all knew going into it from an S-shop perspective that this was breaking new ground. We were trying new things basically across the board, and that was going to be a process that would take testing and refinement, as does any new process that gets spun up for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are some things about the deployment that have gone really well from an S-shop standpoint, and there are some things that I think we can definitely look to improve for future deployments going forward if we want to try and keep that same sort of workflow happening. And I like being a part of that kind of process. It's what I do for work, and so it's something that I feel an aptitude for. Testing processes out and seeing how to improve them. But I think from a combat standpoint, it's been interesting to have a bit of a mix of coin and traditional warfare along the way. I know that there was some issues with guys finding the coin stuff a little, boring, for lack of a better word, because we're conditioned to dump, all 13 mags every night and call it a day. And I think that the change in pace was a little interesting for some guys. Personally, I would have liked to have seen the coin stuff continue a little more than it did, but that's personal opinion. I being in a support role, I'm used to not having anything to shoot at all day anyway, so that side of things doesn't really bother me. I'm playing tablet simulator in the back anyway, so but on the whole, I agree with what Paddy was saying. Crimson Moon, I think it does kind of have a high bar set against it. I think part of it was that losing was a viable option in Crimson Moon, and there was a sense of sort of genuine challenge where there was a very real chance that we're not going to make it. And I'm looking to relive that at some point. But on the whole, I have enjoyed the deployment. It's been challenging from an aviation standpoint. It's been, obviously from the storyline perspective, it's being in S2 and on the receiving end of that intel as well. It's been good to have a little bit more of an integration on that front from a storyline standpoint. So I think there was a lot about the deployment that's gone really well, and there's a lot that I'd like to see sort of roll forward into whatever our first deployment of 2019 is going to look like. Absolutely, I think it was. I think on the whole, it's been a pretty good time. I'm not looking forward to having to try and capture an airfield, but other than that,
what are you talking about? Airfield captures are always tons of fun.
Yeah, it's a little less fun for the JTAC and a little more fun for the fucking M240 gunner in the front.
Yeah, I fucking hate them. Yeah, I would agree overall, like, with your sentiment, like you were talking about there. We tried a lot of new things this deployment, and that's what excited me more than anything else. In terms of going on deployment is really no different for me. Like, it's at this point I'm desensitized to all of it. Like, I can't. It's very difficult for me to tell one mission from one deployment apart from another mission and another deployment, because of, like you said, we're so conditioned to, let's go fucking take out a battalion of infantry and call it a night. And that's why I wanted to change things up a little bit, and we had talked about for quite a while at an HQ level, like what are we going to do to set this deployment apart from everything else that we've done? Because things are starting to get stale. We do the same thing every fucking weekend. It's especially for those of us guys that have been doing it for a couple of years. It's just the same thing over and over and over again. So we, wanted to implement some new shit. And like you said, some of it worked very well. Some of it didn't work too well. Some of it needs tweaks here and there. But as a whole, that's what excited me more than anything, especially at the start of the deployment, was to start implementing all these new things that we were doing that maybe necessarily the guy that's, only been here for 6 months isn't going to notice because he hasn't been on 2 or 3 or 4 other deployments. So he doesn't notice those subtle differences. But for those of us that have been here for a while, it's like, oh, hey, we never used to do, stuff like that. Or, hey, what? We have 3 fucking Zeus operators now? What the fuck?
Yeah. And even then, we had even at a behind the scenes standpoint, like we had the planning meeting for Task Force Alpha went for 35, 40 minutes, something like that. And I've never seen a planning meeting go for that long, but we were really thinking this stuff through. Like, it seems that at every level, everyone is just putting in just a little bit more effort to try and keep this as good and realistic and immersive as possible, which is really nice to see.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it used to always be a joke that like, well, we can, knock out a planning meeting in 5 minutes. But now, especially with the intel stuff coming into it, like the intel that were received from S2 and, we have HPIs in the area and so on and so forth. And then especially at the beginning when we were dealing with a lot of civilians and things like that, it really changed up how we had to do things, how we had to go about accomplishing this mission. And that's something that hopefully we're going to be able to continue on to whatever the next deployment is. So
if I actually could ask a question to you, Top, what moving forward with all the new stuff that we've kind of picked up from FTX and Lionheart, where do you think the 506 is moving to? Do you think, is there anything new on the horizon that we're that we're going to evolve into eventually from what we've learned here the past operation in FTX?
Myself, more than anything, on a deployment side, I want to continue to see the integration of the S shops working together. We have this muscle, we may as well flex it. We've got 50 fucking guys between all the S shops working. Why not have them working towards a singular fucking goal? And that is to make this deployment more immersive and more believable than what we did even last time. So that's what I really want to continue to see going from a deployment aspect in terms of kind of the back channel stuff, is to continue to keep that integration from S1 all the way to S4 and have everybody kind of communicating with each other to accomplish this one singular thing to blow someone's fucking mind. For the unit itself, in terms of the guys on the ground and also the guys in the air, more so than anything, I want to start challenging these guys. And I don't mean challenging them by, just throwing mortars at them and, you have to fucking hope that one doesn't land in your lap. More so, I want to challenge the tactics and, make sure that what we're teaching you guys, the fire maneuver techniques and things like that, see that stuff be implemented and not just let's sit on a hill 800 meters away and shoot at these guys because they can't reach us with their AK-47 with no optics. I want to force guys to have to maneuver and flank and use, like I said, the tactics and techniques that we've been teaching for years that really we don't need to necessarily use all that much because we have weapons that outrange them. We have air assets that can bomb them. Nothing is a threat to us aside from IDF and some vehicles sometimes. Other than that, there's no real threat to us on the ground. So that's what I really want to see, is I want to start pushing you guys to have to use your fucking brains and, take a platoon of infantry and say, hey, you need to get here and you need to do it fucking smart, because if not, someone's going to get cut off, and you're going to have a squad that's behind enemy fucking lines, and then you're going to have to go fucking get them. You know, just not necessarily simple, but things like that are going to require you guys to actually use the knowledge that we've, you know, been trying to fucking pound into your heads.
Sure. Throw more helicopters at us.
Yeah. Well, see, that though, that wouldn't work, because it's just, you know, it's something that we're not equipped. I don't want us to have to fight IDF. Like, that was the biggest thing. You mentioned Crimson Moon was scary because there was a potential threat, you know, that we could lose. The biggest threat of us losing was because of the amount of IDF and because of the amount of BMPs and, you know, vehicles, dangerous vehicles that were being used against us. That's what the threat was. It wasn't a threat that our tactics screwed up and, you know, we went left when we should have went right and we ran into a platoon of infantry into a squad. It was, hey, we moved down the face of a hill and this fucking BMP that's got a 30mm autocannon just fucking wiped a squad because it's a fucking BMP and says fuck you.
It's also like from it always sort of comes up as well, the realism standpoint of just how many BMPs are there in the world and how many of them all of a sudden exist on this one tiny island.
Yeah, exactly. That's a huge thing, you know, that we've always struggled with is the amount of armor that we're capable of taking on, the amount of armor that's realistic for us to be taking on, and the amount of armor that's required to actually pose a challenge to us because of our anti-armor capabilities between what we carry on the ground and what's up in the air. And that's always a very, very difficult thing to fucking balance. And real quick before I go too far here, Smith, thank you for that 9-month resub. You can call me daddy now, even though you probably already do. So going into Winter Stand Down, for anybody that hasn't been in Winter Stand Down, any of you guys that may be listening that haven't been through a Winter Stand Down for the unit yet, basically we still do operations, but they're not official. Well, they're official unit operations, but they're not connected to any training or deployment. They're just official hosted fun ops that everybody is welcome to come play in. For you guys, is there any, I guess, do you guys look forward to those Winter Stand Down operations at all to kind of give you a chance to let your hair down and just kind of have fun with all the guys?
Yes and no is the honest answer. I mean, you and I have already kind of spoken a little bit about what the sort of plan is, and I don't really get into kind of that particular mod set. It's just a personal preference thing. So if it's something that, like when we did the 5th Sunday op last time, where it was, you know, basically standard mod pack and we just, you know, greened it up a bit, I really enjoyed that. That was definitely the kind of thing that I was sort of looking for. But I also understand that, you know, you've got to find some variety and go for some different stuff, and Winter Stand Down's a great time to do that. So not knocking the theory. It's just not my personal cup of tea. But
well, I know, because oftentimes Winter Stand Down is when we do kind of the more off the wall stuff, where we'll do, you know, Trebuchet, the Halo stuff, or we've also talked about in the past about possibly doing some Vietnam stuff if they ever get a map where the fucking AI won't shoot us through the trees and shit. So that's kind of our chance to, I guess, be a little kooky with things and not take it so seriously. But like you said, Hardman, like the one this Sunday that we did, where it was just basically, you know, a fucking task force of secret squirrels. Like, I enjoyed that because that's more so kind of my style. The kind of crazy off the wall stuff I also don't necessarily care for. I don't think it's as fun. But I know a lot of guys in the unit do enjoy that just because it's so drastically different from what we normally do.
Exactly, and I think it's really good to find that balance and that to take the time that we so rarely get to do that crazy stuff, because you can't really do it in the middle. Like, you can't do it on a 5th Sunday, because then you come to an operation the next week and every second person's going to have their mods fucked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's a big reason why because the last 5th Sunday we had, you know, I had people ask me if we were going to do Halo or stuff like that, and it's like, no, dude, like we can't we can't have guys download, a 5 gig mod pack for one mission because of exactly that reason. Next week they're going to show up and everybody's mods are going to be fucked up because they're too stupid to, take care of it. Winter Stand Down, it's a little bit different. We have weeks of downtime where, that shit can get squared away before we actually roll back. And then even then, guys are going to show up to the first FTX and their mods are going to be fucked up. It's going to happen. It always does.
Being an S1, I still don't fucking understand how that works because Arma makes it easy for people to swap between mod sets.
Yeah, especially now, like with the Arma launcher, it's so goddamn easy to swap your mods and activate and deactivate mods and shit like that. I don't know. I don't get it. What about for you, Patty? I know you said you enjoy the break and just being able to kind of fuck off for a little while. But the Winter Stand Down missions, do you ever take part in those? Do you kind of look forward to them at all as just something different since it's, only once a year we get to do that?
Yeah, I enjoy the trebuchet stuff. That's actually a lot of fun for me because I'm very in depth into the non-Spartan aspect of the Halo universe. In particular, like the weaponry, the machinery that is used, the ships that fly around in orbit and have these advanced weapons. Like that aspect of the Halo universe just fascinates me and makes me, think about, where we're going to be as a race here in the somewhat near future, maybe. But yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoy those missions. And honestly, I'm still in the process of building my own fun op to put forward for the the Winter Stand Down, the 506th official, unofficial Top Gun fun op.
Oh yeah. I forgot all about that. Did you do like a first version of it, or are you still kind of prepping everything for it?
Well, the first version got trashed because we did like 3 mod updates in a matter of 2 weeks, 3 weeks or something like that. And it fucked up the file, so I had to start from scratch. But now that I've actually started it, I've actually built a what do you call, like a very modular flying map with on the carrier and stuff like that. So like if we wanted to do Top Gun, I've got a story to where like it's a modern aircraft carrier carrying modern aircraft, but hey, there's 5 or 6 F-14s sitting on here that we're going to take out. And so, like, if we decided to do like a modern flying ace kind of operation, all I have to do is pull those F-14s out, and everything works the same.
Oh, nice.
So, hopefully, here in the near future, that'll be popping off. And then I also am in the process of building a Air Force airfield kind of fun op, like airfield and like airfield ops kind of thing, where you have people in the tower running shit in there, and you got people on the ground like moving planes in and out. Just that kind of off the wall kind of stuff where like the Air Force boys might get a real more of an appreciation for it.
Yeah, that was, I mentioned about how S shops never really shut down during Winter Stand Down. Especially for those of us in S3 and S4, it can't really shut down necessarily during Winter Stand Down because, like as Aaron alluded to there in chat, we always end up getting a mod pack update during Winter Stand Down. 1, because we're usually months behind on mod updates just to make sure everything is running smoothly. And 2, we have to get the new map in for our FTX cycle and stuff like that. So we always end up getting a mod pack update during Winter Stand Down, which guys always end up fucking up. And then also,
well, I mean, the current pack update we've been working on since September. So to put that into context, that's how much shit we've got on the list that we can't really throw out mid deployment because guys will.
Yeah, well, on top of that as well, it's one of those where you'll be tasked with fixing one thing. Okay, I've got that one thing fixed. Well, we're not going to release the mod pack yet because it's just one fucking thing. It's not really worth it. Okay, now we've got 2 things. Oh, well, you've got those 2 things done, but hey, we kind of need this done. And while you're in the process of working on that, a week later, oh, hey, we need to do this as well. It's constantly evolving. I mean, how often out of, say a week or 2 week period do we contact one of you guys and say, hey, look into this, or hey, look into this, or can we do this, or hey, we're looking at doing this for such and such. We need to check the viability of it, and things like that. Like it's a constant development.
It's every cycle. Like
Mhm.
every cycle, something is raised with S4. We one shot, like one part of S4, whether that's my mission team or the mod team, but either way, at least every cycle, something new comes up. Sometimes it's every week, sometimes it's every day in a week, but at least every cycle, something's getting added to the list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's...
And as Caldwell says in chat, we also need whatever we need for the new the FTX too. So if that's custom factions or if that's a new map or whatever it is, that always triggers a mod up.
Yeah, and that's where also S3, like I said, we don't really get to shut down. The training side technically can shut down. It doesn't, at least from my end. But the S3 side of things, the operation side of things, we can't really shut down purely because, okay, great, we're going on winter stand down, but we have to have shit ready to go for when we get back. We have to have the FTX map chosen. We have to have, at least the first phase or the first cycle, whatever, planned out in terms of what we're going to be doing for that cycle. Oftentimes at the first cycle of the FTX or the first phase of the FTX cycle, we'll do R2P2, the rapid planning process, where we don't do a planning meeting. And that's more so just to kind of make everybody think on their feet when we actually get into the operation. It's like, okay, here's your brief. This is what you got to do. You got 10 minutes before we step off. Come up with a fucking plan. And we generally do that for the first phase of every FTX cycle for that reason, just to make guys fucking think. But we at the higher level, we still have to have it planned out. We still have to know what we're going to be training on, at least for the first, 1 or 2 phases. We have to have that shit figured out ahead of time. We have to know, like you said, if we're going to need custom factions or, so on and so forth. And then even once we start the FTX cycle come fucking January, when we come back, we have to be thinking, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months down the road in terms of what are we doing for the next deployment. And a lot of guys probably don't realize that like we finish this deployment this weekend, us in S3 and also S4 are immediately thinking FTX cycle. We start the FTX cycle, we're immediately thinking next deployment. We never get to stop planning the next thing. It is a constant fucking battle.
I mean, I messaged Lieutenant Myers, I think 3-ish weeks ago, starting FTX discussions with him, just so that I was vaguely prepared and vaguely organized for it. But I know even if we look back at the FTX cycle before our current deployment, I know that I forget if the conversation was with you, Top, or with someone else, but I know it was basically like, well, we know we're going to be deploying to the desert, so we're going to FTX on Klafgan to start to get used to that whole piece of shit now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's shit that comes into play, especially at a higher level, is when we're discussing what we're doing for the FTX cycle. At the same time, we're discussing what we're going to do for the deployment, because that's the whole purpose of the FTX cycle. Yes, it is to, train guys on fundamental shit, which we do a lot, but it's also to prepare them for the next deployment. So we have to look at, not only the map, but just the techniques that we're training on and so on and so forth, and go, okay, is this going to be applicable to the next deployment that we're going to be doing? So even before we start the FTX cycle, we are looking at maps for the next fucking deployment, going, will this work in conjunction with this FTX map? Are they somewhat similar? Is it going to be close terrain, so on and so forth? And that's generally how we do it. There may be a point in time where we end up doing it completely differently, where we, say, hey, this is our FTX map, and we're in the desert, and then we end up taking you guys to the fucking mountain somewhere. That could potentially happen, but I personally don't really like doing that, because that's not really how things are done. When you do a workup and do preparation for actually being deployed, you go train in the type of terrain that you're going to be deployed to, because well ahead of time that you're being deployed. So while guys may think that's kind of cool to do that and just to kind of throw everyone through a loop and change things up on them, it's it's generally not going to happen like that in reality, because if you train guys to fight in the desert and then you go fucking deploy them to fucking Alaska, like they're going to be ill prepared.
Exactly. There's no point spending 3 months training on Chinoa just to end up.
Yeah, and as Caldwell said, we're getting to the point now where it's getting more and more difficult to find suitable fucking maps for us, because we've been on so many maps over the last 4 years that it's like, oh yeah, we were there back in such and such. That's why, like, when we used CL Afghan, like, we've used CL Afghan before. We used it for a fucking deployment. But kind of I was the one that, brought up wanting to use it again. And it's like, yeah, we used it for a deployment. It's not unheard of to go to a place where, you were once deployed and use it for training and shit like that. Granted, it's a huge time gap, but I mean, Germany's one of the biggest places that we train in. And, that was once where we were fighting at. And that was purely out of the fact that we needed a desert map. We needed something that we knew could perform somewhat well. It's like, we've used CL Afghan before. It's not unheard of to train in a place where you once fought. Let's go ahead and use that again. It's decent size. It'll work. It'll get the job done. We don't have time. We don't have another map available that we're comfortable with using at this time. Let's use something we've already used before. And it's only an FTX cycle. It's not a fucking deployment, so it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, even then, if we could theoretically, 18 months down the line, we could look, if we really wanted to, at redeploying back to lithium. Like, if this, depending on what we wanted to work up from an intel standpoint, that could all go to shit. We might have to come back. But I understand that for guys like yourself and Drum, and the guys who've been in the unit for forever, that does get a little repetitive. But we also have a good number of guys in the unit now who have never been on Chernobyl. And I know we're never going back to Chernobyl. That's fine. That's just PTSD material all over. But yeah, it's
actually also the fact
it's not
that
like it couldn't happen.
I hadn't really realized it before, but performance on Chernobyl is kind of fucking dog shit, man. Like, compared to some of the other maps that we've been on, we did that 5th Sunday mission on Chernobyl, and I was the one that Zeused it, so I know there wasn't a ton of crazy shit done on the map, and the performance was pretty fucking weak in comparison to kind of what we're used to. I was like, what the fuck, man? This is Chernobyl. Maybe this is why I was getting 5 frames a second and fucking, in Electro back in the day. Granted, I also had a fucking potato PC, but and a shit Zeus, but yeah, Chernobyl will never fucking happen. There's too many of the old guard that are like, I will burn that server to the fucking ground if I ever see that map again. Yes, exactly. I never want to attack that city again.
Who was here? H Lackey 14 would love a North Korea jungle map. I would like to see jungle.
We've talked about, and that's Donchi. We've talked about doing a jungle map before. The biggest difficulty, as most of you guys know, with doing a jungle map is just finding one where they're not going to shoot us through the fucking trees. That's the biggest problem that we've had with Tanoa. I like Tanoa. It looks pretty. It looks dog shit on a stream because it's just constant fucking pixelation. But the fucking AI on Tanoa is just so dog shit that there's no way we could do a full deployment on it. Like, guys would be ripping their fucking hair out. I know I would if I had hair. But yes, we have talked about it, and it's a matter of finding one. Someone just mentioned that Weiwu, yeah, the GOS Dong Bin Tang. I was looking at that the other night as a possibility because I know those guys, the GOS guys, make very, very good maps. We've used a bunch of their maps in the past, so I was looking at that as a potential someday down the road that we could use that map. And there was also a couple more kind of trusted guys whose maps we've used before that I've seen that I'm like, yeah, I'll kind of keep those, in the back of my mind for future deployment possibly. So speaking of all of this and, deployments and so on and so forth, obviously I've been through a fuck ton of them. As I said, winter stand down is really no different for me. My job still remains the exact same, and the deployments are all kind of blurred together for me. But from the, I guess, technical side of it, and this one's for you, Hardman. As you're more and more and more fucking involved in the S shops because you don't know how to say no, is there?
Hey, I said no.
Did you say no? Oh yeah, what did you
I
turn
said
me down
I
for?
said no to you not that long ago.
Oh yeah, you turned. What was? I think it was OSA, right? Asked you if you
No,
wanted to be an instructor. What the hell was it?
Aries.
Oh yeah,
I turned down
Aries. That's it. Yeah, you fucker.
I'll be Aries, just not for
Fucker.
Havoc 2.
I have enough fucking Aries operators from fucking second platoon. You guys need to find somebody else. Fucking Christ. So from a technical side for you, Hardman, what I guess kind of what do you look forward to the most in terms of like when we do updates and stuff? Do you more so enjoy doing the like the what's the word I'm looking for here? Like the testing and kind of the troubleshooting of stuff, or do you prefer just kind of the hey, this is a new mod we're going to use, throw it in there and get it done?
I look forward to the process being finished. Is the thing I look forward to the most.
Just get it done and get it off my fucking desk.
Yeah, the rest of it sucks. No, it's the testing process for me. I mean, I'm a programmer kind of by trade, and so the testing methodology of building a piece of software and fixing some stupid shit in armor is basically the same process. So that side of things works pretty well for me. But my sort of modding and scripting side of things is very much one of, I guess, the discovery process. Sometimes the answer to that question is not always as simple as it seems. Like, for example, if we take the fact when Drum said that he wanted the MRAPs to go uphill faster, if we just take that as a one-off example, I was like, okay, cool. I have no idea how this works. I've never needed to mod that in a vehicle before. Let's go digging, right? And then I open up the config for the MRAP, and then all of a sudden, it's like there's a torque value. And I was like, cool. We'll just give it more torque. It goes up hills better. Job done. No, that did absolutely sweet fuck all. And then so it's like, okay, well, we need to now dig more and find out what comes next. Well, Arma has this thing that I've always known about but never had to interact with, which is a full gearbox simulation. So to make the MRAP go uphill faster, you actually need to start playing with the gearing ratios as well as the actual torque and power outputs of the engine, as well as the actual torque curve of the engine to determine what torque is produced at what RPMs and how that translates through the gearbox.
Arma suddenly becomes Assetto Corsa.
Yeah, in this one very specific way, Bohemia has outdone themselves in terms of the simulation. Now, it makes it a giant pain in the dick to do anything like modifying it. But that one very simple request, it's actually the only thing on my to-do list which remains unsolved because it's a pain in the butt. And every time I spend any time with it, it's like I'll spend hours at it and I'll get maybe like a half a K an hour uphill better.
Oh Jesus!
Which is just it's not to do it kind of like properly, like Liru says. You could screw with it and you could kind of like hijack the system and kind of force it to work, but then you end up with a gun truck that weighs like 13 grams instead of 5 ton, and then it's like what other issues comes out of that then as well. So
yeah, that's when as you guys are about to see, the guy that tries driving this 5-ton truck up like a 2-to-1 grade, that's when he ends up flipping the truck over, which in reality that truck should have flipped over anyways. But yeah, if it was fucking light as a feather, that thing would be rolling.
Or it's like, what happens if the gun truck hits an IED? Does it then go pirouetting through the air?
Oh dear God, yeah. I didn't even think about that.
It's a much bigger issue. And so then the testing process has to come in, and it's like, okay, well, I'm now going to have to hit it with RPGs. I have to drive it over IEDs. I have to put det on it and see what happens when I blow it up. What happens if it gets hit by IDF? Because all of these different explosions, armor being armor, have all different simulations about them, which is just, it's so hard to keep track of everything that you have to test. It's like you miss this one thing. Like when Lithium was picked as our deployment map, no one thought to shoot a 50 cal gun truck into a house and see what happens.
Yeah, or a saw into a
5
shed.
5 rounds and it explodes.
Yeah. Yeah, we found that out very quickly on the first fucking mission. When I shoot a shed with a saw and it blows up like there's a fucking explosive in it, and we're all going, "Oh, that guy must have a fucking S vest." And my Ares guy is like, "No, he didn't have a fucking S vest on." And then we started getting reports of guys hitting buildings with 50s and the entire building collapsing. And it's like, "Hey, S4, guess what you get to do?" Because we're already using this map. It's a done deal.
Yeah, and then I was talking to Soto about it, and we started digging through config, and it turned out he needed to basically modify every building that comes in the JPAD pack because they don't inherit base classes properly. So it took him a good couple of hours just to make buildings not fall down when you shoot them with.
Yeah. And I seen Diver asking there in chat about kind of our requirements for maps on deployment. And like Caldwell said, the biggest thing is size. It's got to be big enough to, justify us having 3 platoons doing operations on it, essentially simultaneously. At the same time, we've never said that we're unwilling to use multiple maps on one deployment and just kind of, make believe, if you will, that they're the same place, as long as they're close enough looks wise that it would be believable that it's the same country or something. But that is always the biggest difficulty, is finding a map large enough for us to do a full, 8, 9, 10 phase deployment on it. And then it goes into performance, because oftentimes large maps like that have a ridiculous amount of objects in it, because sometimes the fucking map makers just feel like they need a stupid amount of ambience bullshit. So then performance tends to be bad. So performance is number 2, and then number 3 is, are the buildings enterable, or is it just a fucking Bob Ross 3D painting out there? Like, can we actually walk into that building and clear it out? No. Like, 80% of the buildings are unenterable, or, it's like fucking Chernarus, where you just can't go in pretty much any building. Then we're not generally going to use it, because we like our fucking CQC.
Well, surprisingly enough, we had that issue in NAP. I remember, if Crimson Moon, where certain buildings weren't accessible, but they were still housing enemy combatants in them, and that was a fun fucking time.
Yeah, or you have the time that as my baby cries in the background. Sorry about that, guys. Or you have the times that the S4 guys make the template and then disable simulation on a building, and the AI can still be inside of it, but we can't open doors. Not that that's ever happened. Sorry, I have to bust S4's balls since he's in here. So, keeping with kind of that line of questioning in terms of the mod stuff, I also have to ask you, Hardman, because obviously you generally know, or you guys in S4 know, anybody that does the testing and stuff, you generally know a month to months ahead of time if we're going to be implementing a new mod. If we're getting a shiny new toy, you guys are going to know about it basically first, next to us at HQ level, or even sometimes before us if you guys are bringing the mod to us. Do you have a hard time with that, like trying to do you get excited about that? Do you get kind of giddy, like, ooh, we're getting something new? And do you have a hard time like having to keep your mouth shut about that, like, oh fuck, I can't tell anybody, but this is so goddamn awesome?
Crickets.
No? Okay. Well, he just sent me a message on Steam that said I went full robot, and he can't make out what I said, so I'm guessing he must be having some internet issues, unless it's on my end. I don't know if you're hearing me weird.
It's Australia. I don't hear. You're coming through just fine for me.
Yeah,
it must be Australia.
Well, I guess
sharks are biting on the fucking fiber lines.
Right. Fucking goddamn dingo stole his internet. Well, I guess I'll ask you then, as that stuff gets down the pipeline, when you find out about those new mods, like coming down, we get a mod pack update, and you're told, hey, there's such and such, this and this that's new in there. Do you get super excited about it? Like, ooh, I get to play with new stuff?
I personally love reading through the change logs that they post with the mod updates, and 2.4 normally will, as a squad, get together and do a rearmament training or rearmament day, where we all go through our mods, we all double check our equipment, we conform to the new uniform standards if there are any, will conform to the new SOP as far as throwables and stuff like that, grenades and shit. And we'll take an hour or so and just train on stuff, make sure nothing's fucked up. But like you would if you got new equipment, you'd be out with your squad or with your platoon, testing everything, making sure everything's set up properly. So when you're deployed or if you're getting called out to FTX, everything's working and you don't have to worry about it when you first pop in. But I get all giddy when new stuff comes down the line because I was like, oh yeah, like when the new Moz came out, I was super fucking.
Well, we had kind of talked about that ahead of time too, because I was the one pushing for the new Moz to be added, and I had went to basically all the weapons guys ahead of time and was like, hey, I want your opinion on this. I want you guys to kind of do a little bit of testing on it. Let me know what you find. I did my own testing on it. I know I talked to Lion a decent amount about it because Lion's been doing weapons for a long time. So I talked to a bunch of weapons guys before we ever even made the announcement that the new Moz was coming in. And I let them know, like, hey, I'm working on getting this added into the mod pack. Like I told them, I want this to happen. So if it fucking breaks, like, you're going to be shit out of luck, but we have to know this thing is going to work 100%. And, it worked out, luckily.
I'm actually working on it right now. I'm setting up the COC. I'm still waiting to hear where it's heading. But currently, the Mod 0 is permitted. The Mark IV Mod 0 is permitted for the weapon squads. But the Mod 1 with the optic, with a specialty optic, is currently not allowed. And we have to switch between that weird, because we have to pull the Mark III Moz out if we do night missions. So I'm trying to figure out if it's possible to get the Mod 1 approved for night missions only. Because what I learned was that the optic does not do adjusted ranges for height. So it's completely still necessary to have an assistant making those adjusted height distances to make sure the shot's on target. And just the need for that night vision ability is paramount when it comes to using that thing.
Does the Mod 1 optic, is it receptive to NVGs?
The Mod 1 optic has its own night vision.
Okay, so that's the big difference.
It doesn't work off of our night vision, but the Mod 0, because the mod is locked, from what I understand from S4, the mod is locked.
Yeah, we can't dick anything with it, because that was actually my first, I guess, kind of request of the mod guys when we were bringing that in was, I want the new Moz, but I want the old fucking sound because this new one sounds like a wet fucking fart. Like, give me the ting, but it wasn't possible. Yeah. It's like an oversized grand ping going off, but yeah, it's not possible for them to dick around with it, which is disappointing, but shit happens. Sometimes just got to deal with it.
I'm sure eventually somebody will crack it and it'll just be a skin at this point. We can skin it to what we need.
Very quickly, Bad Wolf, thank you for that 10 spot. I appreciate that. And I think Hardman is back now. Yes? Maybe?
Yeah, good to go.
There we go.
There he is. Yeah, the Sharks repaired the fiber line. Woohoo.
Well, they got sharks with freaking lasers on their heads. So what I was asking you before, Hardman, was with you being in S4, you often know months ahead of time if we're going to be implementing a new mod or new equipment or things like that. Or sometimes you guys bring stuff to us. One, do you get excited about that kind of stuff, about bringing new equipment or new mods into the mod pack? And two, do you find it difficult to kind of keep from talking about it? Because, obviously, if you do get excited about that shit, you want people to know about it just to be able to talk about it. But at the same time, you can't really talk to anybody about it aside from guys in S4 or us in HQ. So do you find that difficult at all?
Not really, honestly. I think I have too many classified bullets for that to be a problem. With a start in S1, I got very used very early on to saying no, talk to your COC. And because, as soon as someone finds out you're in S1, this is what I say to all my new clerks. As soon as someone figures out that you're in S1, all of a sudden you're going to be getting informal promotion checks coming out both ears, non-stop. And so I got pretty good pretty quickly at telling people to fuck off. And it's been like my whole track record in armor is keeping shit to myself. So no, it's not too bad. When it's things like the backpack radios, though, for example, once we had those, because we were fooling around with those in the TACP before we kind of sent them up to get approval and all that kind of nonsense. And we were doing testing and whatnot, and it's actually more of an issue actually when I'm waiting on both ends of the same request. So when we send something up and I was like, well, I've still heard nothing in S4, it's like, all right, that's clearly not happening. And that's the hard part for me, is that when I know that we're waiting for an answer on something, and it's the still waiting is really difficult when it's something that I really want to see and it's something that we've tested and it looks like it's going to be really good. That's the tricky part. Seeing new stuff coming through is I mean, it's good, like I enjoy it, but it's I keep that under wraps pretty well.
You just look at it like, yeah, I'd be excited, but they want us to use this new thing, and that just means I have to do a fuck ton of testing and work. It's just
that's
work
right. Yeah,
to
the
me.
more stuff that hits the mod pack is just more stuff that I have to maintain.
Yeah.
Like I said it to someone the other day, they were like, it'd be really cool if we had XYZ in the mod pack for this thing. And I was like, yeah, we could add it to the mod pack for like this deployment or whatever. But then if it's in the mod pack, it's probably going to stay in the mod pack, and then 3 years from now when it breaks, I'm going to get asked to fix it. And like, fucked if I know how it works. Like, even if I figure it out now, I've got no chance next week, let alone in 3 goddamn years. Like, it becomes an issue of maintenance. So new stuff in the pack is always cool and exciting, and I get the same kind of buzz out of new toys to play with everybody else does. But I have the unfortunate downside of also the reality of mod maintenance carrying that shit forward.
Yeah, and in terms of like you were talking about, having to tell somebody or learning how to tell someone to fuck off really quickly, I tend to have fun with it because obviously I have friends in the unit who are not involved in any major decisions in the unit, and I'll have well, since he's in chat, like I'll say Caldwell, like me and him are hanging out after an OSUT class, and he may say something like, hey, you know anything about the next deployment we're doing? Yeah. That's it. Like, I just fuck with him because it's like, yeah, I know what's happening. You want to tell me? No. Okay.
That's not happening.
Like, yes, of course I know what the next map is going to be, what the next thing that we're going to add in is going to be. I have to know that stuff because I have to, give my opinion on it to the CEO and let him know whether I think we should do it or not. But am I going to tell any of you? No. I mean, I'll message like Hardman on Steam and be like, hey, is this viable? And he says yes, then I'll tell the CEO, yeah, then we can do it. If he says no, then I'm going to say, no, we shouldn't do it.
Well, it's like at the start of this, when I got a message from Myers and he was saying to me, can you build me just like a quick sample template on lithium because we're going to just test it and like see how it works. I'm like, that's it. We're using lithium. All right, done deal.
Yeah, pretty much. And then, like with the with you guys doing the templates and pre-building some of the stuff, that was purely out of my own fruition. Like, hey, I wonder if we could do this. And I, message you and say, hey, what's the capability of you guys being able to fucking build this shit ahead of time for us? And you're like, yeah, we can do it. So then I can go to the CEO and say, hey, we're going to have these guys do this ahead of time. So it saves us time and, on the Zeus side and so on and so forth. And
Zeus is terrible to build it.
Yeah. God, it sucks. Editor is so much fucking easier to build stuff. That's why, I mean, honestly, some of my Zeus guys, like, they build the shit ahead of time in editor anyways, and then just transfer it over to the fucking template. It makes things a lot easier. But yeah, it's even at an HQ level, like we can't obviously do all the testing and shit like that, or even have the 100% informed decision. Like, we have to rely on other guys as kind of counsel in terms of like, hey, is this going to be possible? Will this work? Can you make it work? Is it going to be too much of a pain in the ass to make it work? Stuff like that. Because I know, like, I've contacted you multiple times, like, hey, can you do this? Yeah. Well, can you do it without dedicating the next 3 weeks of your life to it? I'm not sure. Then don't do it. It's not worth it, So when the mod pack updates, like you said, it's just more shit that you have to maintain, basically. But when we do like a major update, say a full mod pack update, RHS, fucking Cup, everything updates. And then RHS updates 2 days later. What's going through your mind when that happens?
Poor Soto, because Soto does all of our RHS stuff, so it's not really a problem for me. But it is it is an issue. Like, it's really hard, and it's the same with everything that we use. That is a off the shelf kind of thing that we do just bake into our mod pack, whether that's RHS or Cup or Ace or whatever it happens to be. Every time there's an update, it's basically the same issue as what happens if MRAPs weigh 13 grams. It's like the amount of things you have to test is just immense. Because even if let's take the Tunguska just as a fun example of a vehicle. It is a vehicle that's in our mod pack. It's not a RHS vehicle, it's a Cup vehicle, but it's in our mod pack. Well, it's got an issue with AA engagement, right? We all know that the Tunguska is actually really terrible at lighting stuff up. But so in attempting to fix it, what we did is we took away some of its Cup weapons config and we gave it some RHS weapon config to be like, here you go, this RHS vehicle is much better at AA, try this instead. And so then when RHS updates, you break a vehicle that's not even in RHS because we customized the ever-loving shit out of everything, and now it's an entirely different kettle of fish. And you go, I don't have to test that because that's not an RHS vehicle, it hasn't updated, everything will be fine. Oh yeah, but it has. And so trying to keep track of that stuff, that's the real struggle, is trying to keep track of everything that's custom about our mod pack and trying to keep track of testing all of that moving forward. Like all of our custom units, all of our custom 506 units, and all of our custom uniforms and stuff, they all inherit some stuff from RHS and they all overwrite some of it. But when an update comes along, you got to make sure that all maintains itself.
Right.
So
make sure it hasn't shit itself.
Yeah, and like when Ace updated, it's like, okay, well, Ace, everyone thinks about Ace as the thing that does weapons. It does Ace interaction, it does Ace medical, it gives you like the advanced throwing. That's what everyone thinks of Ace as.
Yeah, it is so much deeper than that.
Ace also does the lock-on system for our Hellfires, which is buried deep in fucking Ace somewhere. And it's very easy to forget that targeting system comes out of an entirely different mod. Because you have, like, even some of the missiles on the A10, a not RHS vehicle and a not Ace vehicle, pull some of their libraries from Ace. And so it's just, that's honestly, that's the hardest part. Like, actually going into the editor and putting some shit down and shooting at stuff or whatever is not too bad, but keeping track of a list that says this is all the things I need to test, that's where it becomes tricky. And the only real way to get good at that is just to spend time digging through the actual code of the mod pack and just go, oh, that's interesting, I had no idea that worked like that. And that's a process that I've been unlucky enough to undertake recently, as I have to fix a bunch of shit and you have to find how it works in the first place.
And I have to ask, because obviously with the mods that we use, you guys go in and tear them apart and, suit them to our standards and so on and so forth. There's very few mods that we use that are completely stock, that you guys haven't had your hands on in some way, shape, or form. And I know Soto has been in contact before with the guy that made the original A10 that, he went in and further modified. How much, if at all, contact do you have with the mod authors that make some of these mods that we use? I know the one that I was recently testing with the radio stuff, you've been in contact with that guy, but like some of the other mods, whether it be RHS or Cup or Ace or, whatever other fucking mods that we use, are you ever in contact with those guys, the original authors to those mods? Do you guys talk to them at all?
Me personally, not really. It's not my sort of job. Like, the mod team is Soto's team, so he kind of takes point in that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the mod team, like Secret Skrill forums, that indicates a lot of prior contact. The way that works and the nature of that, I don't necessarily know, is the honest answer, because it's not really the thing that I do. Like, the original reason I was put on the mod team is to help test stuff when Burke left, because we always have a mission team representative on the mod team, and it's usually the mission team leader to just to make sure that when a mod pack update comes out, we also can do things like test the arsenal still has everything in it that it's supposed to have when class names change and so on. And then it just kind of evolved from there with my aptitude for digging through scripting for 4.5 hours and finding the one thing that we're looking for. So
On that
how much?
note, for the love of God, S4, could you put the right fucking ammo in the trucks?
No.
Nah. But yeah, so it's really not my kettle of fish, to be honest. That's really more of a thing that Soto looks after. But I know that every now and again I'll be digging through like the RHS feedback tracker because I wanna fix XYZ thing, and so I'll be like, oh, I'll see if anyone's requested it, and then I'll find like a feedback request in there with Burke's name on it, or I know that the mortar system that we're using, the RHS, the M224 60mm tripod mortar, that's a RHS mortar, but that came about because Drum requested it from RHS. He put in a feedback and he said, look, we need this mortar system. Here's a bunch of stuff about how this mortar system works. And then they made one, and now we use it. So a lot of that stuff I find by accident, to be honest, more than it being something that I actively chase down. But I believe that there's a good amount of contact, more so on the RHS side of things than Ace.
Yeah, I know that they've done stuff based upon our requests, and even sometimes not our requests. Just I don't know how many of the guys on that team or whatever watch what we're doing or what, but they obviously pay attention to what we're doing. Obviously, we're one of the big users for their mod, but we've seen changes come about in RHS based upon stuff that we've had go wrong during our operations or so on and so forth. So I know they're fairly up to speed on at least what we do, and I'm sure what the other bigger units do, whether it be the 15th or whoever. They're keeping up on that stuff, and then like you said, they've also straight up received requests from us and then fix things based upon that. And I also know at one point in time the guy that built the A10 that we use, and then Soto went in and modified it. He actually contacted Soto and said, hey, can I get those modifications that you made to my shit?
Uh-huh.
And yeah, that was that may or may not have been turned down.
The A10 it's a bit of a joke, honestly, how much work goes into one airframe that 3 people use.
Yeah.
But it's had a lot of man hours spent.
Yeah, it's a labor of love for Soto, but it's also one of those, constantly guys are asking him like, hey, how do you guys have this? Or how do you guys have this? Like, no, what? I've never seen that before. And it's like, yeah, that's because Soto worked his fucking balls off, and we're the only people that have that because of him.
Mm-hmm.
If we could get Drumheller to push RHS to push for a new Javelin, that'd be great.
I would love to be able to have a Jav that's actually in, at least the
clue
2 parts.
in tube form.
Yeah, so we could, just bust out the clue. That would be awesome.
It's already an open feedback request item on RHS. Someone's already requested it. They've already accepted the request. They just need to do it
2 years ago.
Yeah, like I know, but I'm just saying.
It can't always be quick unless it's my shotgun, in which case that should be done quickly. Very, very quickly. For those of you guys that don't know in chat, Diver that you guys see bouncing around chat there, he is working on a little present for me. Actually, for working on something for other guys in the unit as well. But yeah, he's making me a little shorty pump shotgun that I'm basically like a kid on Christmas right now, just waiting for that fucking thing to be done. So I want to ask, I guess, both of you this question. I'll go to Patty first here. What are you? I know you said jungle deployment is something that you've been thinking about, but is that kind of what you, I guess, are looking forward to the most, or what you would want the most? Is a jungle deployment, or is there some other? Is there kind of a grand scheme? Like, do you want to see us facing like a modernized military, like a North Korean military, or like what's your kind of ideal deployment at this point?
My ideal deployment, I would have to say probably somebody. Well, because I'm a little biased because I'm weapons, but somebody with some advanced weaponry. Like I'd like to see another tank or two, or But I know we talked about this a little earlier about the realism of how much armor and mechanized equipment is actually on the field. But I don't know, the idea of having a challenging issue or challenging enemy that I can't sometimes see, or that's what I like about the jungle. The jungle aspect is like you're talking about, like them shooting through the trees. Well, Vietnam War, that's all they did was just shoot through the trees in the general direction of our troops. And that to me is scary, where I can't see where it's coming from, and I don't know how far out they are, and that idea of like mystery almost, or like just like danger without recognizing danger. I think that's what's gonna get my heart pumping, and get me really into and really immersed into a firefight. We dealt with a lot of the what do you call it? Not the insurgencies and like the guerrilla fighters, but I would actually almost say the 506 is probably ready to go up against a military force almost its equal.
Well, unfortunately, we can't get an equal because we fight fucking retarded AI. But I get what you're saying in terms of equipment and capabilities. Yeah. And Caldwell mentioned that Jungle FTX we had in Ziba Sogo. That was actually a good map. I wouldn't mind seeing that map again. The AI engagement was not too bad on that one. When I talk about being shot through the trees, I'm not necessarily referring to like being suppressed through the trees. That's perfectly fine. It's more so a problem when they turn and shoot you in the fucking face on the first couple rounds because the tree just doesn't render for them. That's more so the problem with jungle maps, and also one of the reasons why like all of our maps, the grass can be fucking turned off, because oftentimes on maps grass does not render for the AI. Like they can lay down in the grass and shoot you no problem because they don't fucking see it. And also it helps on performance a little bit. So Hardman, what about you? What's kind of your ideal deployment now? I know it's kind of whatever for you somewhat, because like you said, you just kind of have your face stuffed in a tablet, but what's the ideal for deployment for you at this point?
Can I say any deployment that involves just carpet bombing huge sections of the enemy air?
We don't have any B-52s.
We could change that. But no, so
don't fucking say that. Caldwell's in chat.
Yeah, I know. Come on, Air Force buddy. No, so I mean, obviously that would be fun, but also we're not an Air Force unit. We're a supporting asset. Like I get it. Honestly, it's something that's probably going to be really hard to do in Arma 3, but I would like something with just more realistic, I guess, country layouts. Like some parts of Lithium kind of get it, I guess, but towns which are like legit towns with
it's not a
backyards.
It's not a 1 block long village with like 6 buildings in it, and none of them have make any sense or rhyme or reason.
Yeah, I really intrigued, I guess, on the coin aspect. I think partially because it makes my job so much harder as a JTAC as well, because it's like, oh, there's a guy up here. Well, too fucking bad. We can't do shit about it because he's on the roof of a hospital. So like, just get over it. But that kind of that would be, I guess, my thing is just a more realistic civilian standpoint rather than just basically just like an empty desert that all of a sudden seems to be growing T-80s. That's kind of, because I get, obviously being S2 and whatnot, I kind of get into the storyline side of things, but I think the direction that things look to be going from what I know of the FTX cycle, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm like I said, I'm pretty happy with whatever, because I am a kilometer away just staring at my tablet for 2 hours. So it's not too bad.
I'm right there with you that I love the coin stuff. I didn't even necessarily get to play in the mission. I was helping Zeus the mission, but that mission, the roadblock that you had built, that roadblock mission was like outstanding to me. I thought that was absolutely fucking great. Guys popping up on rooftops and taking pot shots and things like that. I do have to make a caveat to something you said there in terms of a guy sitting on a hospital. Fuck off, we're engaging him. I don't care if he's sitting on a hospital.
I know, but
I seen someone mention that the other day in We Was Chat, and it just pissed me off. Some idiot saying that it's a war crime to engage a hospital, and I was like, I don't know what kind of fucking retarded military experience you have, but that's some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like, it is not a fucking war crime, nor has it ever been a war crime to engage a goddamn building just because it has a special symbol on it. Like, stop it. Like, the only thing that comes into the equation there is collateral damage assessments, and that's it.
And we have Ligers for that, so
yeah. But I, like you said though, I love that aspect of it, of like, hey, do we have civilians in the area? Do we? Because that's something that I always take into account, is that collateral damage. And yeah, if I blow up somebody's house because I got to take out a mortar pit, sorry for you. Hopefully you had fucking Durka insurance. If you didn't, tough shit. But I like that aspect. Like, do we have civilians there? Yes. How far away are they? This far. Okay. Do we have a weapon system capable of engaging that accurately without putting them in too much of harm's way? Also, why the fuck are they still standing there? Which is a huge thing that any of my Ares operators can tell you that I harp on, is if there's civilians running around an AO during an active firefight, they're going to be getting a message from me on Steam going, why in the fuck am I looking at civilians right now running across my fucking skirmish line? Stop this shit. Get them the fuck out of here. Many of my guys have been contacted by me like, why in the fuck am I looking at civilians right now? Make them fuck off. All right? Get them into a building somewhere. This shit stops. I cannot stand that when I see it in operations. It used to happen to us all the time. Luckily, my guys are good about it. They take care of that shit. But especially like when I watch, other people doing operations or, whatever, and there's a civilian just running across their fucking sight picture. And I'm like, come on, dude, like, use your brain a little bit. Why in the fuck would there be a civilian running across the street during an open fucking firefight? Like, I don't care whether you've actually been in a combat zone or not. You have a brain between your two fucking ears, and that thing should be able to tell you that, hey, I'm not going to run out my front door while there's a machine gun firing down my fucking street. Like, that's just stupid.
Yeah, if anything, you're going to go back into your fucking house and shut your mouth and wait for the whole thing to...
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's one of the biggest telltale signs when going into a town or whatever. If shit's about to go down, there's nobody there. There's nobody on the streets. Like, when they know someone's there to fucking ambush you, they're not going to be out at the fucking market buying some bread. They're going to be hiding in the fucking corner of their house hoping their shit doesn't get bombed.
Yep. I also think, though, that a lot of people don't necessarily understand the amount of thought that goes into stuff like that from our perspective as well. It's not just like Zeusing is not just about being the enemy commander. It's like Zeusing is about like being the enemy commander and the brain of every fucking civilian out there, and what actually makes sense. Like, it's hard to do what we do and to put so much effort into realism and immersion at every turn and not also give a shit about things like civilians being retarded, or the fact that if there's some guy at a gas station and he's there for 45 minutes, like, how big is the tank on his fucking car?
Yeah, and that's really one of the biggest, I guess, advantages to now having 3 Zeus operators per task force, that you have those extra hands to take care of the, somewhat remedial shit like that normally the one Zeus operator just doesn't have time to do. He can't worry about that one civilian that's running around in an AO in front of these fucking squads while he's trying to issue orders to these 3 fucking, squads that are trying to get into the town. And like Weewu said there, one of the things that works really well is taking the civilians, stuffing them in a fucking building and putting them into that ambient animation where they're hiding. Because they look scared as shit and they won't move when they're in that ambient animation. They'll just fucking sit there. And that's great. Like, our guys have used that before. And I fucking love coming in a door and there's a civilian cowering in a corner. Like, that to me is realistic as fuck. This, like I said earlier, this civilian running around out in the street and guys are like fucking yelling at him and chasing him and shit. And it's like, dude, come on. Like, why are you, just ignore him. Like, if you can't realize that that's just AI being retarded fucking AI, like, stop it. Stop trying to chase the fucking AI. He's not going to stop no matter how many times you yell at him. Stop it. Just fucking ignore him. But that's, like I was saying earlier, in terms of challenging guys, like that's one of the things that I really want to do is challenge guys, make them fucking think, not just open fire from a click away and start dropping fucking bodies because the AI won't engage. Like, you have to think about what you're doing in a coin situation. And like we said, some guys found that boring. And it can be boring, absolutely. When you're only getting engaged by one guy across an entire fucking platoon, it can be boring. But that one fucking squad that's getting engaged and can't find the fucking guy that's engaging them, it's pretty fucking rowdy. It just sucks that sometimes, not everyone gets that same experience. But that's, like we had said earlier, that's stuff that was brand new things that we've never tried before. And we continue to work on them and, try and improve the way we're doing those things. And hopefully in the future, we can kind of at least somewhat perfect that. So going into, I guess, Winter Stand Down is kind of the last question that I have for you guys. Going into Winter Stand Down, you guys know we have the FTX cycle coming up. Is there any one particular thing that you guys look forward to training on? Do you enjoy the actual training aspect of an FTX? Because especially now, FTXs are very, very fucking different from a deployment. It didn't used to be that way. Now it's a vast difference between an FTX and a deployment. So is there, I guess it's kind of a two-part question. Is there anything specifically that you guys are excited to train on? And are you excited to actually train on things, or do you prefer deployments? Patty, let's go to you first.
All right. So I have a feeling, and this is just from my opinion from the most recent FTXs, I feel like FTXs they don't focus so much on an actual training so much as they actually just feel like actual, like a training deployment almost, like where we just kind of go into a mission and we do the mission. I can't remember the last time, and again, I keep harping on this. I feel like it was Crimson Moon the last time I actually feel like where we had like an hour-long sand table, and we were talking about how to cross streets between buildings. And we actually like lined up, and we had the whole platoon on each squad. They had to cross the street, and they had to like set up. They had to set on the corner and say, set, and then everybody crossed, and then last man crossed the street. I feel like it's been a long time since we've done something like that. I'd love to see that come back, because that actually makes me feel like I'm learning something.
Well, we did that for that kind of stuff for the last FTX cycle. I mean, it has technically been a long time, because it's been 6 months or 7 months or something since we were on the last FTX cycle. But we did that for the last one. Like, I remember the one that really sticks out to me is the fucking convoy FTX that we did, because I had to stop it once to fucking go over shit, and then Cap had to stop it once because I told him if I stopped it again, people were gonna cry. But yeah, that's the big difference for us between an FTX and a deployment, is that we actually train. We have sand tables. We'll stop a training right in the middle of fucking training to go over something that someone's screwing up. So is there one specific type of thing, whether it be, fire maneuver or ambushes or convoy or stuff like, is there one type of training that you're kind of looking forward to? Like, yeah, I really want to work on this.
I would probably say convoy ops again, and I'm just saying this from like, I'm a fire team lead. I don't ever drive. I don't ever run the gun. But I can tell you right now, if I ever had to drive or run a gun or sit in the commander's seat of, the Vic and run the radio, I have literally, and this is probably, I'm not even lying, literally zero experience running in a convoy in any of those three positions. I've always sat in the back, and I feel like that would be something I'd want to work on, where like all right, how do I properly, run the Vic, drive, I know the speed limiter and all that stuff, but like, what am I listening for? How am I looking for? And then if I'm sitting in the gunning seat, like a lot of the guys I run into have no idea how to like alternate their gun, So like if the first Vic is facing directly forward with their gun, second Vic off the left, third Vic off to the right, like alternating where the barrels are. Like a lot of guys don't know that. I'd love to see almost like a remedial basic functions of a convoy vehicle training.
We have that. It's called OSUT. So a lot of guys that don't know how to do it, we're not paying attention in their fucking OSUT, which makes me want to rip their fucking head off.
For sure, but then you have the guys who haven't been in OSUT in over a year and a half and who have maybe never driven a convoy since then. That's me. I'd love to get some experience back there so that when I have to come to do it, I don't feel like, all right, I'm losing. I want to feel comfortable sitting in that slot and being able to do the job because I just don't have the opportunities to do it.
Right. Yeah. So convoy for you. What about you, Hardman? Is there one, do you get excited for a training cycle? And two, is there any like one specific thing that you would like to see task forces train on?
So yes and no for part one. The thing is that obviously aviation doesn't get a huge amount of, I guess, showtime during the FTX. We don't really get a sort of a dedicated chance to kind of, while the infantry is off practicing, shoot houses or whatever, we can't go over to another corner and run some 9 lines or whatever. So yes and no, a lot of our MOS specific training we kind of have to tackle in our own time, just because, like I said, it's a part of the supporting asset framework of the 506. It's not a complaint, it's just kind of the way it is. But I really like the sound table portions for basically the same kind of reasons, but the other way around, because a lot of the time, we go and do training with Deco or what have you. It is training on that aviation specific stuff, but as a JTAC, I still need to be able to, clear doors, clear buildings, and use deflate and all the regular infantry kind of stuff. So for me, it's a nice kind of chance to just sit down and kind of recap some of the stuff which I know in there somewhere, but it's a good just refresher on stuff that maybe I don't use as often as everybody else does. Quite often I don't have to worry about my vehicle PID skills because I can't see it, because the A10 saw it 30 minutes ago. So it's not a big issue for me, but it is still good to sit down and go over it for that kind of reason.
Right. And like you said, you have to be up to speed on the ground tactics. You have to know how to fucking flank and how to move, and especially when you're running with myself or Cap, we tend to be fairly aggressive, so it's not uncommon for you guys and also our medic who gets drug along kicking and screaming to be clearing buildings right alongside the fucking rifle squads.
Yeah, exactly. So we kind of got to be up to speed on both. You know what I mean? It is a challenging role, and that's something that we say in the, like, when we put a command announcement out saying, look, we're looking for JTACs. Go send Minnie a message and let him know you want to be one. It's something that we say, it is a challenging job, and it's because you need to be able to basically clear a building and clear close air support at the same time. Right. And remember that if your pilot checked in with 6 Mark 82s, those 500-pound bombs are unguided. And so if he's saying, look, it's a good run for Mark 82s, you need to go, okay, well, that's unguided, so I don't need to have eyes on it. He's not going to necessarily have eyes on it because he needs to focus on flying. So then Warlord needs to put eyes on it for a BDA for it. I then need to remember that he's on a Type 2 clearance, and Type 2 clearance means that the pro word for that is cleared hot, not cleared to engage. It's only for Type 3 control. And you need to try and remember all of that stuff while shooting Ahmed in the face. So,
right, because you're going in a door and you're hitting your mark and, clearing your sector inside of a building while calling in a fucking 9 line. Because it's like, let's go, Dagger. I ain't got time to wait for you.
Well, exactly. And it's like, I filled in for a squad training. I think it was with Smith in 3-2. And someone was bitching out about the fact that they couldn't talk on the radio and clear a building at the same time. I'm like, motherfucker, what? I'm standing right here. You try that bullshit. If you can't do that at the same time, then you certainly need to revisit your keybinds, because having W as your radio key is just clearly not.
Yeah. No,
I find that's what it is most of the time. Most of the time, it's a keybinds issue. They're like, I can't do it because my hand's just not there. And I was like, well, fucking.
Well, I was just telling somebody the other night about my keybinds, because I use Corsair Scimitar mouse, which has the 1 through 12 on the thumb, and most all
That's
of my
amazing.
primary functions are on my thumb. Pretty much the only thing I do with my left hand is W, A, S, and D. So I can easily, clear a building and talk on the radio at the same time, because I'm just using my thumb to talk on the radio. Doesn't matter which radio I'm talking on, whether it be, my primary or my alternate net. I'm just using my thumb to talk on it. So I can move very quickly and talk and all of that at the same time. But, a lot of that comes with experience and so on and so forth. But I tell guys, like, if you're not capable, or if you're not comfortable, or you're not capable of, clearing a building or engaging a guy or whatever and talking on the radio at the same time, then don't, clear the threat first and then talk on the fucking radio. Those guys that are in a building and they stop to respond to a fucking message on the radio, and they just stop in the building when it's not cleared yet. Those are the guys that I want to fucking thunder punch in the throat, because it's like, dude, you're getting us fucking killed when you stop and try to reply to, Sergeant Dipshit who's calling you on the radio. Like, just tell him to stand by and then continue doing your job. Like, you have to eliminate that threat first, and then you can fucking talk to whoever you want to talk to.
Well, it's like you say during UCS, if you're on point, being on point comes first. It doesn't matter what the fuck else you are, you need to get that shit done, because everyone else is going to be waiting for your tempo.
Yeah, exactly. You have, in that moment, you have one job, and that one job is to eliminate the enemy. All the other shit falls by the fucking wayside, All right, so
you did also ask me what I was looking forward to training on, though.
Yeah.
So I should probably actually answer both your questions. The other, I'm going to be really boring, and actually I'm going to steal Patty's answer. I like convoy stuff, but I like it because before the 506, that was what I did. We did some 4.5 hours a week just of vehicle training. So I enjoy mounted stuff, pretty obviously. So I always enjoy that. It also means that we can cover. It's about the distance too, though, because all of a sudden we can be looking at like a 10-click AO with driving for the first 5 clicks of it. Also, we think, until we get ambushed 900 different times, then all of a sudden, well, this is just as far as we're going to get today. It gives it a lot more possibility, I guess, for change and for variation. And, my eyes in the sky need to be working hard on spotting that stuff out for us to say, well, you got an ambush, up here around the corner. And when we did the 2IC day, which was the big convoy op for Task Force Charlie, and I was working with, I think at that point it was Alexander was acting Task Force Commander. And I was saying things to him like, okay, we've got some guys up ahead that look like they could be staging an ambush. And then at that point, at first we were like, all right, well, let's push through with the trucks, we'll clear them out, blah, blah, blah. And then pretty quickly it became, drop a bomb on them. I don't want to deal with it. Let's just keep this shit rolling. And so, it's a lot more can happen when you're covering some distance through the countryside. You've got, coming off our previous deployment, we've got the IED threat as well, which is always interesting. You then got the possibility of armor and so on. So there's a lot more, I just think, that can happen when you're mounted in convoy, and it's the excitement for the unknown.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that I like it. It's no secret that I love training on convoy operations. I was in trucks every day that we went to work. We had 4 trucks that rolled out every single day. I loved it. I love the amount of coordination and communication that it takes to really properly run a convoy. Now, at the same time, it also infuriates me when guys fuck it up. But that's, it's kind of a catch-22. I love training on it because I want guys to know how to do it properly, but I hate training on it because when guys don't know how to do it properly, it's fucking horrible and it makes me want to fucking punch kittens. But at the same time, they're never going to get good at it if we don't train on it. So that's, I agree. Like, I can't wait to train on some convoy operations or mounted operations, whatever. I love doing it. I like working with the gun trucks. I love having them as a force multiplier. As you guys know, I take pretty much any chance I can to fucking hop up in a mark and start lobbing grenade rounds out there. But yeah, it does tend to be pretty fucking rage inducing, but I still like doing it because I don't want it to be fucking rage inducing. I want the guys to do it properly. I want the vehicles, like Sunday, I want to get to the end of a fucking operation and all of the vehicles survive. Like, it's bad when the unit's been doing this for 4 years and Sunday night is the first time in anyone's fucking memory that we've had all of our vehicles survive to the end of a mounted operation. Like, that's some pretty bad fucking statistics there. We've gone through as a fucking, as a company, we've gone through more vehicles than the entire United States military has gone through in the last 17 years of being in conflict. Like, it's bad.
No, we're doing fine. It's fine. Don't even worry about it.
It's fine. It's okay.
And that's, you had mentioned the IED threat. Like, I like personally bringing that into it. That's a huge point of contention among some people, that they don't like the IED threat because we have no way to combat it. Sometimes, we have the Dukes, but in reality, Dukes are only good for one fucking slice of the IED threat. You still have pressure plates. You still have manually operated. You still have all kinds of crazy shit that we don't even have in Arma yet. We don't have shape charges and things like that that they use in reality, and there is no current way to combat those other than more armor. I love that aspect to it because it does make things more difficult. It makes you think more and makes things scarier. That's one of the things that I'll always retain, is just kind of that always being on edge anytime you're driving somewhere, because you don't know the next time the fucking road's just going to blow up underneath you and there's nothing you can do about it. There is no combating it. That's why they are so dangerous, and why they're used so goddamn much is because there is no way to combat it. It's essentially a perfect fucking weapon for the enemy, and that's why I like going against them, because of that, because they are so fucking scary. Some guys hate it. I personally love it. So I guess that is kind of a boring conclusion in terms of what we all want to train on, because all three of us want to train on convoy operations, all the while Caldwell's sitting here like, please God, no, please don't, please do not.
I mean,
like, I'm at a platoon HQ level at this point. Like, I do not want to see these fucking idiots running around in trucks. Like, please don't do this to me. I don't want to get yelled at, because I know I'm going to get yelled at.
all right, well then I'll change my answer just to be slightly more interesting, because the other thing that I've wanted to train on for 2 FTX cycles now, and it's never happened, is I would love to do a decent size down pilot rescue style operation. I know it's an issue of the 506 doing that thing, right? But hear me out. Like, even if that's a case of we have like a 3-bird lift on the first turn, and the third bird goes down, 2 clicks, or the first bird goes down 2 clicks in front of everybody else, and then we have to get up there and get our guys back and then proceed on with the objective. Because traditionally speaking, we are terrible at responding when an airframe goes down.
Fucker, I'm not.
Yeah, okay, but as a unit, I can't remember the last time we had a bird go down and actually made it to the pilot alive, and the pilot being more than about 200 meters.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is the distance factor. Can we get to them? Yes. Okay, let's go get him. Can we get to him? No, he's 6 or 10 clicks away. Okay, I'm not derailing the entire operation to go pick up that guy that's going to take us an hour and a half to get there and then try and come back.
And in reality, if you had a pilot down 6 clicks out, then you'd get another crew to go out and pick them up anyway. You're not going to push the ground element 6 clicks. That's going to take too long. They're going to be dead before you get there. But we've had even in the early stages of this deployment, we had birds go down not that far out, and just trying to get the task force to break contact and go pick them up was a nightmare, and we ended up losing the pilot.
Yeah,
so
getting guys to break contact is a nightmare, no matter what the scenario is.
That's true. Maybe we just need to train on breaking contact then, and that'll just solve all the other problems.
No, you had alluded to there that there's a problem in terms of us doing like down pilot rescue and stuff like that. The majority of that contention is from me because, you know, oftentimes when that comes up, guys are like, you know, they basically want to turn it into a hostage rescue that a pilot went down and we got to go out and find him and get him. And it's like, I understand the sentiment of wanting to train on that, but at the same time, our unit is never going to be tasked with doing that. Even in reality, we're never going to be tasked with doing
light
that.
line infantry. It's not going
like,
to take place.
We're there to fucking kick in doors and punch motherfuckers in the face. Like, we're not a SEER unit. We're not any type of secret squirrel unit. And that's the same as, you know, I think I've finally gotten it through everybody's fucking heads to stop trying to do fucking hostage rescues for fucking squad trainings. Like, we're not a fucking hostage rescue unit. Like, believe me when I tell you, the absolute last type of people you want to be rescuing your loved one that's been taken hostage by Habib is a fucking line infantry unit. Because they're more likely to get blown the fuck up than they are to get rescued.
And in terms of the IED threat and not having a way to just combat that, we could always just bring the engine.
Bring what? You cut out there.
I was going to say, we could always just bring the engineers.
Oh, yeah, the engineers, yeah. At this point, though, we almost can't just because we can't. Like, we don't have the room on the server, you know. The task force size has gotten so bloated at this point, like, we couldn't add a whole nother section of, you know, 10 to 12 guys on the server. Well, I mean, we might
and
be able to...
I know that it's been said before that the engineers are basically not going to happen because there's just an issue with fitting that into the scope of what it is.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. There are certain aspects where it would be really nice for them, and you know, there's potential with this new server to be able to put those extra guys on there. I'm not sure. We haven't really been able to test it thoroughly in terms of, you know, increasing the amount of people on the server. But yeah, it's in the overall grand scheme of things, like you said, the pros don't really outweigh the cons enough for us to be able to do it.
Exactly. They're going to be useful once every 4 cycles, and that's not going to be fun for them. And just going to have more people bitching about that.
Yeah. And like Bad Wolf, you know, mentioned there in chat to add a PJ group. The reason that you'll never see anything like that, any type of like specialty unit within the 506 is purely out of the fucking, like, just the... Not really morale, just kind of the mentality. Because when someone gets into a special unit like that, then they tend to get a little too fucking overconfident, and then there's fucking rivalry that's born, and so on and so forth, and it just turns into a bunch of high school fucking drama that we don't need, which is why that'll never, ever fucking happen. Mostly because I have to crush enough fucking heads as it is. I don't need more fucking idiots to babysit. I already have a fucking couple hundred retarded children that I got to keep an eye on. It's bad enough as it is. All right, so that's going to kind of wrap it up in terms of the main discussion tonight. There's a couple of things left here that I want to go over with those of you that are listening. I was talking about it with Patty before we went live. I think Hardman also caught kind of the tail end of it there. But for those of you that I guess are unaware, we've been kind of in the process of getting a new place and moving for a little while now. And that has kind of, I guess, unfolded quicker than expected. So what's going to happen is Thursday, I'm actually tearing my rig down and taking it over to the new place. That's where I've been the last few days. You may have noticed I haven't really been very vocal or anything on Discord. I've been fucking over at the new place, hanging drywall and shit like that for the studio to set up my rig in. So we're going to be moving, like I said, I'm taking my rig and stuff over there Thursday. I will still be streaming this weekend, hopefully, provided the internet holds up. The internet that's there currently is actually better than what I have here, but I have yet to stream on it, so I don't know how stable it is and stuff like that. So just kind of bear with me this weekend. Hoping and praying it all works, because this is the end of our deployment and I really don't want to fucking not be able to stream it. And then Monday I have Comcast coming out, and I'm going to be getting gigabit internet, actually, which will be fucking awesome. And it's like $100 cheaper than what I'm currently paying through Comcast. Fucking cocksuckers. God, I hate it.
How does that make any sense?
Because it's fucking Comcast, dude. I fucking hate them.
I'm really glad I don't have to deal with any of that.
You guys have like pretty fucking banging internet in Australia, though, don't you? I mean, obviously in the populated areas, not out in the fucking outback. Well, because I know I watch like fucking Chinglish, and he's in, I think he's in New South Wales, and he's got like fucking bomb ass internet. It's expensive as fuck, but everything there is expensive as fuck.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So, anyways, that move is happening Thursday. Now, that being said, it's gonna kind of screw up things in terms of shipping and stuff for the Christmas giveaway. I'm still doing the Christmas giveaway. It's just gonna have to be postponed into January, because by the time I get everything to me and then be able to ship it out, it's gonna be after the fucking first of the month before it gets to anybody, anyways. And I don't want to take any chance of, you know, stuff coming to the old house and not being redirected properly and so on and so forth, because I actually already have some stuff on its way. I have a fucking HyperX Cloud 2 headset on the way for the Christmas giveaway, and a Corsair K65, I think it is, keyboard on the way for the Christmas giveaway. So we've already got a couple of things in the process of coming here, and should be here before I actually move. But I'm still gonna, like I said, have to postpone things just until after the 1st, so that I know for sure nothing's going to get fucking lost in the mail or any issues or anything like that, because I would feel fucking horrible if I choose one of you guys to win, you know, a fucking $200 keyboard and you end up waiting 2 months because there's issues or whatever. So just be aware of that. We are going to postpone the giveaway for a little bit, just so everything goes smoothly and you guys actually get your shit in a somewhat timely manner. Now also, another change that is going to happen is going to be to this podcast. I've been thinking about for a while now doing the podcast pre-recorded, as in not doing a live stream of it. And I am going to go forward with that. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. One, it is going to greatly help on availability of those of us that are on the podcast, you know, myself and Patty, as well as Loster. I'm going to be bringing Loster back. We're going to be doing the podcast kind of on the availability of the three of us, so we don't have to be able to sit down for 2 or 3 hours on a Wednesday evening. We can just kind of do it whatever night we want. And, you know, if we wanted to record, you know, 4 hours worth of podcast and break it up, I can do that based upon our availability. So the podcast is not going to be live anymore. It is going to be pre-recorded. And like I said, that's more so for our availability, for availability of bringing, you know, guests on the podcast, guys that have been wanting to get on the podcast all the time, but they just can't because they're not available. Yeah, AA Ron is a very good example. I mean, you guys know AA Ron is a very, very good friend of mine, but I never get to have him on the podcast because he works during the week. So stuff like that, we're going to be able to bring guys on more often. Now, on top of that, the, I guess, other big change that we're going to be doing with the podcast is the podcast is going to be switching over to, as I said, pre-recorded, but it's also going to be on my Patreon. Now, the reason for this being, some of you guys may not like this, and I can understand completely why. If you don't like it, that's fine. But when I'm doing the podcast as a live show, obviously, you know, guys are able to donate, guys are, you know, able to subscribe and stuff like that. I am able to monetize it. It does justify, you know, me sitting here for a few hours. If I only do pre-recorded and just put it up on YouTube, I don't get any monetization from YouTube. I don't make any money from that. So I do, you know, at least somewhat have to justify sitting down and doing the podcast. I love doing it, but I've, you know, got to justify taking the time away from my family. So it is only going to be available on my Patreon. It's only $1 a month to be one of my Patreons. Minimum is $1 a month. So from here on out, if you want to be able to listen to the podcast, you will have to subscribe to my Patreon. Like I said, it's only $1 a month, so it's not exactly fucking expensive. But I at least somewhat have to justify doing the podcast essentially for free by putting it on YouTube. It's not free because it's going on Patreon, but if I didn't do it on the Patreon, then I would make absolutely nothing from it. So it will be on there, and hopefully, you know, you guys will be able to sign up for that and appreciate the podcast a little bit more, because we'll be able to have more people on, and guys that you don't normally get to hear from because they're just not available on a Wednesday night. So again, hopefully you guys, can appreciate this change, or at least understand the change. If necessarily you don't like it, that's fine. But hopefully you can at least understand why the change is happening. So that being said, tonight is going to be the last live podcast. So I definitely appreciate all of you guys, hanging out, coming by tonight, listening. And hopefully everything goes well this weekend, and I'm able to make the change over to the new place and get everything hooked up and it all works well. If for some reason just the internet is not fucking liking me over there or whatever, sorry. But I have to make this move. So by Monday at the absolute latest, everything will be 100%, because that guy's not leaving the fucking house until I know my shit is good to go. So yeah, this weekend is a little bit up in the air, but still, hopefully we're going to be doing the normal weekend shit between OSUT and operations and so on. So all of that being said, I want to thank you guys for, as I said, hanging out and watching tonight, and also thank you, Patty and Hardman, for coming by tonight. I appreciate you guys coming by, Patty as always, and Hardman coming by and dropping some fucking knowledge on us.
No problem. Glad to hang out.
Glad to be here.
All right, so yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for us tonight. With, what is this? Which episode did I say this was? I think it's 47 or 37. No, 47. Right? Yeah.
47's the title on Twitch anyway. Whether that's the right number,
I don't know. I would have to look. Yeah. Thank you guys for hanging out tonight. Again, thank you for the support. We had some resubs in there, and also some donations from Bad Wolf, and also Diver with the 10 spot. Thank you guys a ton for that. And yeah, I will see all of you beautiful bastards later.